You're listening to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge.
Hello and welcome to eLearnChat, our new podcast featuring prominent leaders, shakers and movers in the e-learning and training industry. Your co-hosts are Zanotti and Terrence Wing. And hello everyone, my name is Zanotti and here we are in eLearnChat. This is our premiere episode. This show was sponsored, well, actually originally released earlier this year as a YouTube audio podcast. And unfortunately, audio and YouTube really don't go very well hand in hand together. So we decided to make this a video podcast, and we had the pleasure of adding an extra person to this, which is Terrence Wing. Terrence, you are on. He is our co-host.
Hi, everybody.
Terrence is with Liquid Learn, and Liquid Learn is a leadership consulting company. He does a lot of things.
Too many.
Too many. But Terrence is going to be co-hosting with us, and he will be sharing a lot of his insights and thoughts and knowledge. And part of what we're doing here is a little bit of an experiment. We have a live chat room going on right now. That is on justin.tv/RelateCorp, RelateCorp. We tweeted this out a couple of minutes ago and also last night, so people had the URL to this. And I believe Terrence is also streaming this via his channel right now.
Not my channel, but on the we were doing a little test to see how it would look on Facebook. So we're broadcasting live via the ISD 2.0 fan page, which to our surprise is actually not showing the recording, but is showing the live broadcast instead. So that's cool. A new toy to play with. I like new toys.
Well, the nice thing about all this is that we are now streaming live on Justin.tv. We're streaming on the ISD 2.0 Facebook account, which is actually interesting. I didn't know you could do that. And we are also recording this show for uploading to the actual official podcast site, which we will post up a little bit later on. We do have some people in the chat room, I believe. I think Terrence is monitoring that right now.
Yep. Well, right now we have Lily's in the chat room, so welcome, Lily.
Okay, that's Lily. That is Leva from Belgium. So this is an international show. Make no mistake about it. We are international right now. And Leva, for those of you who know her from Twitter, she is Lilybin on Twitter, and she actually is a professor in Belgium. She teaches engineering as well as Captivate, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Presenter. She's doing a class. I think she's doing I don't know if it's a week-long class, but several-day class in Belgium right now on that, and she is helping out with Adobe blogs and podcasts. So thank you for joining us, Leva. We're glad you could make it.
And she just commented that Lily is her nickname. So you can tell us what you prefer to be called. And she teaches InDesign. You missed that one, Rick.
What did I miss?
She teaches InDesign.
InDesign too. Can't forget about InDesign. A very talented person and an engineer to boot. So this is good. So anyway, what is eLearnChat? Some of the things we're going to be doing in eLearnChat are talking about, obviously, different topics in the e-learning arena. And that could be anything from authoring tools, software development, training concepts, ISD, instructional design, leadership training, social media, and how all of those things relate to the e-learning and training community. Terrence has done a lot of leadership training. He's also done a lot of work with generational learning and helping companies really integrate social media as well as better leadership within their organizations. And those are all good things. Terrence, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with social media and e-learning.
Well, lately it seems a lot more presentations than actual implementations, but we're trying to get, when I say we, referring to Liquid Learn, we're trying to get organizations to start seeing social media as more as a tool to integrate into their e-learning courses. And when I say e-learning courses, talking about your Articulate, your Captivate, and Raptivity courses, how you can incorporate, you can sort of create live characters and embed those Twitter-type characters into your e-courses so that you don't have to keep going in and updating content, but instead you're updating your tweets and using that character to sort of add a new level of interaction to your e-learning courses. So that's kind of one of the newer projects that we're working on, and we presented it at DevLearn last 2 weeks ago. And we'll also be presenting something similar at ASTD's Tech Knowledge in February. So if you're in San Jose, I can get the date offhand, but if you're in San Jose for Tech Knowledge, you'll get an opportunity to see it there as well.
One thing Terrence has been doing is is it 10 by 10? Is that what it's called?
10 by 10, yes. We just started that, and that's although it started as a e-learning episode, the first episode. The episodes after it will be more focused on workforce learning, and those topics would include things like leadership, communications. It's basically a simulcasted video cast of 10 minutes. We try to keep it to 10 minutes, even though that can be really hard. But 10 minutes on our goal is to find 10 tips on a specific topic from our guest. So last week we had you on, Rick, and about 2 weeks before we had an instructional designer, Janice Cook, on as well. So in the future we'll have other celebrity guests on to help us find 10 tips on a specific topic.
Yeah, one of the things I find interesting is I was a guest last week, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you for that. Is that he's got a live audience with him in this particular case, and so you're bringing in people to share in what you're talking about. So it's a way to show how you can expand any class, any situation, from just one instructor to you can have multiple people on giving feedback, giving information, and that makes for a very interesting kind of show. It actually livens up things a little bit and gives the participants different perspectives, different viewpoints, and it's a great idea. It's something that I don't think a lot of people are doing yet, and that's expanding their teaching to include other people live. I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. We were doing a class on instructional workshop, instructional design, and one of the goals of the workshop were to demystify the cost of doing basically any type of e-learning type of training programs. And we wanted to show them that this relatively no-cost structure could easily be used to create small vignettes that they could either embed inside of an e-course, or they could be standalone or embedded in the cloud and tapped into when the user would need it. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great, and I think it's something a lot of instructors are going to be doing in the near future, more and more as they start embracing some of the new technologies. And at first, I think a lot of us are just going, "Oh, why would you want to do that?" And yet, I think it adds a little bit of vibrancy to a class, especially if you've got a good mix of people within the class and also as the quote-unquote instructional team. It makes for an interesting and more compelling instructor-led session. I think you're on the right track there, Terrence, with that one, and I can only see good things happening out of that. Now, other things that Terrence has been heavily involved with, I know you've given some talks on generational learning, or how to deal with the different generations in a corporation. You want to talk a little bit just briefly about that? I know we're going to get into that in future podcasts, because that affects everybody. It affects what we do. It affects who we are, how we manage, how companies can become more productive, how they deal with quote-unquote maybe not so productive elements within a company. There are a lot of differences in the generations, and Terrence has been teaching companies a little bit how to better cope with all that. Terrence, any insights on that?
Well, there's in some organizations 5 generations, and each of those generations comes with a unique challenge and unique perspectives and unique culture. I mean, the list of characteristics that are unique is pretty great for all these generations. And in some cases, they're converging nicely. In other cases, they're creating disruption. In some cases positive, in some cases negative disruption, but disruption nonetheless. And part of the challenge is helping organizations find a way to still develop a culture of inclusion, so you're not isolating any of these generations, but accomplish your goals at the same time. So I make it sound simple probably, but it definitely can be very complex because of the diversity of goals that each of these generations has.
Well, it reminds me of a story. We had one kind of an After Effects specialist on working with us a couple of years back, and he was probably about 22, 23, young guy, just out of school. He had gone to video school. Really good kid. But it's funny. He kept saying, he walked in one day and goes, "Hey, dude," of which I said, "Don't call me dude." So he thought about it and came back a day later and he goes, "Hey, man." I go, no, don't call me man either. He goes, "Well, what do I call you?" It's like, you can call me Rick, you can call me, sir, whatever. Just don't call me dude or man. It was just sort of an interesting thing. And that's a generational thing of learning where and when to use, common vernacular, when to be a little bit more formal. And it's just a little bit of communication between, I guess, generations. And I did find it sort of interesting, the dude and man kind of analogy, because I guess growing up, my generation did say man a lot, though you didn't say it all the time. You said it in a certain place. And can you imagine if you were in the military and you went up to your sergeant and go, "Hey, man," wouldn't work too well. Or if you said that to a captain, you would probably wind up in a brig and something, or doing some KP duty or something you don't really want to do. So it's knowing your place, knowing when to use certain things, and also knowing when to talk. We have had some issues in the past. I know a lot of people have, with people who, let's say, do use Twitter or use social media, but they're using it all day long and they're not actually doing their work. That is an issue at times. We personally don't have a problem if you use it. It's just that know when to use it. And I notice on Twitter a lot of people aren't on so much during the day as they are mornings and later afternoons or when they take breaks. And I know a lot of companies, especially large ones, that don't really allow any social media for security purposes. And so, these are all things that are to be considered. Terrence, what's your experience been as far as security and social media, and do you think that's going to change at all?
Security and social media, I think, is a hot topic today because it's in some ways it's the excuse that a lot of companies have for not adopting a social culture, or at least a social culture via some form of technology. And I think there will be initially an onslaught of corporate governance around social media when it is introduced into many corporations, because in the past that's how they've handled the induction of new technologies. However, with the dynamic of and the goal and the purpose of building community within these organizations, it's going to be more and more important to let that structure take a natural course in its evolution. And building the more corporate governance that's built around social media is going to actually stifle the culture from developing and stifle the potential learning that could be taking place. So, if I were to give advice to corporations that are concerned with security, realize that you're using social media already with your email system. It's a form of social media. So whatever policies and procedures you have in place and governance you have in place on your email system, you can adapt those to social media, at least to start. But if you start on something small, the need for governance is a lot less. So find a project or a problem that your organization is having, and then use social media tools to help you solve that problem. You'll see that the community that develops will start governing itself, and now you're democratizing the information that's available and not restricting it so much. So people, the solution to the security issue is train your employees how to use the tool, but don't restrict them from using the tool. They'll govern themselves.
Yeah, I guess the issue there is what kind of positions they have. For example, if you're dealing with customer service organizations, they may be able to use social media, but more often than not, they're on the phones, they're being monitored, they've got time constraints, how long they can be on a call, things like that, average handle times, all the things that can affect their performance if they start going off into social media. That's probably not the right venue for it in that particular case. However, what I've seen is some companies are actually starting to use social media internally with internal resources, where they'll use internal chat servers or whatever. Instead of calling, let's say, one department, they'll chat with them real quickly and then get back to the customer on how they can make that or how they can provide a solution to whatever the customer was calling about.
Yeah, the opportunities for it are grand. How many solutions you can find if you do incorporate a social media tool into that strategy. And the thing about restricting your employees from using it is kind of like the parent who thinks that their kid is not doing anything as soon as they leave for school, not doing anything wrong.
They're not.
Like, yeah, with cell phones.
Actually, they are.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have kids, do you?
No, I don't.
I can show you the scars.
That level of naivety that we sometimes have applies to corporate leadership as well. Your employees are tweeting, they are using Facebook, they are using whatever their media tool or social media tool of choice is. They're just using it on their own personal devices. They're using it on their cell phones. They're using it on their iPads, whatever the case may be. Devices are so portable nowadays that you're not stopping them from using it. The only thing a corporation is doing or organization is doing is stopping the learning by not encouraging it.
That's interesting. And that's probably a very valid point. It can be argued that a lot of social media is a waste of time, and probably a lot of it is, but there's also a lot that's actually pretty beneficial. I know that since I've been on Twitter, I poo-pooed Twitter for about a year and a half. I was going, why would I want to go on Twitter? I really don't care what you're having for lunch, or if you just went to the bathroom. It just didn't mean that much. And then you realize there's a whole business community out there, and there's a lot of stuff that was shared. We actually met on Twitter indirectly. Trish Yule from ASTD and CPI, I forgot the name of her company, CPLP Coach, I think it is. She introduced us, and that was actually, I met her through Twitter. We actually interviewed her for an original eLearnChat some time ago, and through her introduction, I met you and several other people. And not only did we establish good working relationships, but friendships. And so those tools can actually be a really good way. I met Janice Cook through Twitter, and she's actually done work with us, and we've met with her a couple of times. We chat all the time, and we're always on the phone together. I've met a whole mess of other people through Twitter, and it's a real interesting way to get people talking to each other and sharing a lot of information. And I think that's the beauty of it. How many things you've learned, products you've learned about, or other Facebook beginner at its best. Terrence here is probably a master at Facebook, and he's got some really cool things like streaming live on Facebook through this, which I think is pretty cool. So there's a lot of things that you can use for any of these social media type tools that can benefit you in business, in your occupation, your profession. I've gotten consulting assignments as well as teaching assignments from Twitter. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's I've found clients through Twitter. I've built relationships with with clients through Twitter. I've been able to promote products and services through Twitter. And it's a different. I know there's the marketing aspect of Twitter, or I should say the marketers and the PR folks and the ad agencies are trying to take over the Twitterverse with how do you push your products on Twitter, but I think there's a simpler way to do it than what they're saying. I think when you're sincere, when you're a value, then people start getting curious about you, and then they start exploring more about what services and products you offer. So I don't go on Twitter and promote a product, so to speak, but I will go on Twitter and promote my expertise and try to help people with their learning solutions, and try to help people with any challenges with workforce development that they may be having. And eventually that stems itself into an opportunity where somebody looks at my website, or finds me through some other means. And next thing you know, I have a new relationship with a prospect that it turns into a client, and the relationship, blossoms from there. So Twitter it's an amazing tool. Probably from an e-learning perspective, it's a great tool just to learn from fellow professionals that are doing the same thing that you're doing, and you're building your network, with people that can help you and help your career.
And I think you can promote products, but you have to be careful how you do it. There is Twitter spam, if you will, and there's a lot of people who sometimes follow you and you wonder why. In fact, I think for every probably serious follower, you've got 10 that are Twitter specialists who specialize in social media, if not 30 or 40 or 200. There's just a lot of people out there pushing a product or a solution that may not even exist, but they're just pushing something or other. I get a lot of tweets, I think we all do, saying, get 1 million users. Well, for one, what do you need 1 million users for, or 1 million followers? Is that going to buy you anything? Maybe, maybe not. It'll probably just make it very hard to try to keep track of 1 million people. I know you've got probably about 1,500 or more followers. I forgot how many you have. I think I've got like 700 something, and it's hard to keep track of that sometimes. And I know there's a lot of tools out there like TweetDeck that make it a little bit easier because of the amount of columns you can have and how you can organize your information. But you can, people who are searching for followers may wind up just having a lot of numbers behind their name, but it may not actually make much sense for them from either a learning perspective or from a business perspective. It might just create more ADHD, if you will. How many people can you follow and keep track of that actually make any sense? Yeah,
absolutely. And not to jump off topic here too much, but I did want to welcome Ray Deese. He's on in our chat session now too. So we picked up
welcome Ray.
Sure. Yep. I had met Ray at DevLearn. We had tweeted. Here's another example of the power of Twitter. We had tweeted each other, several times, and participated in LearnChat chats and other chats. And now seeing him at DevLearn, we've kind of pieced connected all the pieces together, and now we have a relationship where there's a connection. He's not a tweeter anymore. He's a human being, but it was fostered through the social networks first. So I'm finding a lot of the professional relationships that I'm building are actually starting in Twitter first.
Yeah, that's interesting. And now one thing I don't see a lot of yet on Twitter, though I do see some, is at the management level. I see a lot of people who are in the mid level where they're working things. I don't see too many manager, VP level types, though there are some. Just they're not as, quote, prolific. They may be just watching more than actually tweeting. So that's sort of interesting when we'll see some changes in that. Because, again, as a manager, I think you can't really underplay the effectiveness of something like Twitter to get information. For example, if you're looking at new authoring tools, what do you look for? I mean, there's the obvious choices. You can go Adobe, Articulate, Trivantus. Those are your top three. But there could be other tools. There could be other ancillary tools. You've got TechSmith, who's got some great tools with, for example, Camtasia and Snagit. Almost everybody uses Snagit. So you've got a lot of vendors out there who are tweeting and putting out information. And I know Dave Anderson, I think, is going to be with us next week from Articulate. And Dave is one of the best screencasters I've ever seen. He can put out simulations faster than you can think, which is great. It's nice to see stuff like that. And I know personally, this is another thing that I've discovered with Twitter. By watching other people's work has really improved our own work. I don't know if you're finding that, Terrence.
Absolutely. And I hate to say this will just be our secret, but it's a great way to steal work too.
Absolutely. Shh.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody. It's between you and me, Rick.
No, that's what screencasting is all about. You record what they're recording and then you use it. Yep, I know. But no, there's a plethora of really good learning out there and examples and techniques. And, every one of us has some techniques we can offer, and other people go, I didn't know that one. And it's a great way to get really your creative juices flowing. I know with Dave Anderson and Tom Coleman from Articulate, both of them they've either had me on the floor laughing from some of the stuff they've done, but on the other hand, some of that stuff is extremely effective, not only from a training perspective, but from techniques. How do you use PowerPoint, in their case, to make better training? And it's amazing some of the things that they can do with it that most people go, I thought PowerPoint was just bullets. No, it's not just bullets. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. And in essence, it is a full-blown authoring tool in a lot of ways. Same goes for Adobe Captivate or Lectora. They're just great tools with a lot of demos out there, people putting out stuff that you can see and get a feel for what people are doing, how they're doing it, and how you can benefit from it. Well, we are running almost on about 30 minutes, so we don't want to prolong this too much. This is a first show. We're really kind of rambling a little bit, and we're covering a lot of different subjects. We promise you there will be more focus in the upcoming episodes, but we just wanted to introduce the concept, introduce what we were doing, and we hope that more people get involved with the chat rooms and make comments. And as we go through the show, we'll try to address questions or comments as they come up. Terrence has been monitoring that. And I just wanted to thank our sponsors, which is really us at this point. We are sponsoring the show. So let me put up one of our sponsors, which is Liquid Learn. Terrence, you want to talk a little bit about what Liquid Learn does?
Sure. Liquid Learn is a learning media company specializing in bridging skill gaps with blended learning approaches, anything from e-courses, social media infused training, instructor-led training, video, web-based, and others. Basically, if it has an on and off switch, we like to play with it to use it to help organizations accomplish or bridge their skills gaps. So if results are your goals, then quench your thirst at Liquid Learn.
I like that. And we're also sponsored by Relay Corporation. That's my company. And what we do is we develop e-learning courseware. We do a lot of courses for technology-based training, simulation, soft skills training, corporate video, and corporate audio. We do a lot of different things regarding media and pretty geeky, techie types who put together some good training and things like that. Well, anyway, Terrence, I guess we can wrap up this show. Any show comments at this point?
I just want to thank our participants. We had a few viewers on the live cast here, and we had a few chat room participants, Lily and Ray. So thanks so much for placing your comments in there. And any suggestions whether you're watching this live, whether you're chatting, whether you're following it on Pound eLearning, Pound eLearnChat, let us know if there's somebody you want to hear from or a topic you want discussed, so that we can make sure that we collaborate with the community that's going to be using this tool.
That sounds great. And we have the outro music has just kicked in, so we're going to call this a show at this point, and we will see you folks next week. Now, we're going to stop the audio recording, or actually the video recording for the actual show now, and then we're going to continue the live broadcast for another minute or so. So thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Terrence.
Thank you, Rick. Take care, everybody.